Hello, I'm Charlotte Le Maire. I'm a partner and head of the Criminal Motor Defence team at DAC Beachcroft. My team represent drivers involved in serious and fatal road traffic collisions, as well as representing drivers who are charged with more minor road traffic offences. This video will give you a brief overview of what happens in the event of a driver being involved in a serious or fatal road traffic collision.
If luck is not on your side and you're involved in a fatal road traffic collision, then as far as the police and criminal justice system is concerned, you are a criminal. The offences you will face are causing death by dangerous driving, which carries a maximum prison sentence of 14 years, soon to be increased to life, or death by careless driving, which has a maximum prison sentence of 5 years. These offences have the second highest jury conviction rate at 84%. That's second only to indecent images of children. It is wholly irrelevant that you are an upstanding member of the community, no previous convictions, no drink or drugs, just going about your normal day when the accident happens. These are the people, it could be any one of us or anyone within your organisation, who myself and my colleagues see on a day-to-day basis in police custody cells and serving prison sentences that are marked in years. Within a matter of minutes after a fatal road traffic collision, the police arrive at the scene. This is the only criminal investigation where there and then, in the immediate aftermath, the police can ask a suspect what happened. And they will. You can imagine the consequences of a driver who's just killed someone, often assisted with CPR of the deceased, trying to say what happened. It can be hugely incriminating, and the advice must be to say nothing. The vehicle will be retained by the police, mobile phones seized, and evidence at the scene preserved. Technology plays a huge part in the investigation. Dashcam footage, telematics, even the Fitbit a driver wears on their wrist, all assist the police in reconstructing the collision. Witnesses are spoken to for initial accounts, markings at the scene looked at, brakes marks, positioning of debris, positioning of clothing fibres if a pedestrian collision, damage to vehicles. All of this is done with a view to reconstructing the mechanics of a collision. The driver will then be taken to a police station where they will sit in a cell for a number of hours waiting to be interviewed. If this happens to a driver within your organisation, would they know who to call? Would the person who receives a call from that driver know what to do? What actually happens in the police station? Well, a driver will sit in a cell for a number of hours before being interviewed. If they have no lawyer, then there is absolutely no entitlement to what's called disclosure. There is no entitlement to see the evidence the police have before they ask a driver questions. There is no entitlement to the witness statements, to details of any dashcam footage that has captured the lead up to the collision, the details of the physical evidence at the scene that shows whether or not that driver even braked. Essentially, without a lawyer, a driver goes in blind to the interview and will inevitably make the situation worse. Every driver involved in a fatal collision needs a lawyer to obtain this evidence and then advise how best to put forward their account. It can be the difference between facing a prosecution or not, and between whether or not that driver goes to prison. The first reason is because the driver has the benefit of seeing the evidence before the interview starts. There is no point saying that you're not tired if the evidence from the Fitbit or the mobile phone shows that there was no more than 3 hours sleep a night in the lead up to the collision. There is no point saying that you stopped at service stations if the cameras from the service stations do not show that you stopped. There is no point saying that you braked if the physical evidence suggests otherwise. All of these answers will make matters a lot worse, and unrepresented they are answers that many a driver would give. Secondly, with a lawyer, a driver will not fall into the risk of appearing to put forward a defence, which is instead the complete opposite. What a driver thinks is a defence, often encouraged by the police through questions, is instead the driver providing evidence of aggravating factors, and therefore the evidence that will result in a prosecution and possible conviction for death by dangerous driving. I was tired. I was under work pressure. I was distracted by the kids in the background. All of these are examples of dangerous driving. Driving whilst knowingly deprived of adequate sleep or rest is the definition in the sentencing guidelines of death by dangerous driving. Driving whilst distracted for a long period of time, again the definition of death by dangerous driving. And if that driver is driving in the course of employment, there will be two strands to the police investigation. The police look at the driver himself, but also a huge amount of questions revolve around the company driving policy, the induction, but most importantly the culture, with a view to possible health and safety offences and corporate manslaughter. It is irrelevant that a company has impressive, robust policies if the culture is such that mobile phone use is tolerated, or indeed encouraged, or if drivers are under pressure to deliver by a certain time. In the background to all of this is not only the implications to the driver, who is facing prison, the company, who has a reputational impact, but also potential health and safety investigation, but also a potentially large civil claim. Driver representation enables you to get details in the immediate aftermath regarding the deceased, any injuries, dependents, which all allow for accurate reserving from the outset. It falls to the organisation to educate drivers as to the consequences of fatal road traffic collisions, to educate drivers as to the need for police representation, and to have procedures in place whereby this legal representation is triggered in the immediate aftermath. This is the only way to protect both the driver as well as the interests of the wider organisation. This is what your broker should be talking to you about.
My name's Steve Green. I'm a director of Anthony Jones Insurance Brokers based in Bromley and Bristol. I'm here really to talk about that all insurance brokers are not the same and really pose the question, does your choice of insurance broker matter? When it comes to managing claims, I would argue strongly that it does, and make sure that you understand that the service your broker is offering is a lot more than advising on a choice of insurer and price. So, does your choice of insurance broker matter? Unless your broker wants to understand your attitudes to risk and is capable of understanding and explaining that to insurers, then really you ought to suggest getting another insurance broker. Insurance coverage is easy. It's not difficult for insurance brokers to place insurance cover. It's what happens when something serious occurs that matters. Unless your broker has given you clarity around what happens when that happens, get another broker. We would argue at Anthony Jones that early notification of claims is essential. It helps us to manage the claim and ensures that we're more likely to defend liability and recover costs from third parties. We have our own claims team and our own online reporting tools. If you're not convinced that your broker has this sorted, then get another one. You should recall that premiums are on the rise. Claims frequency is starting to accelerate, as are personal injury costs, and a number of insurers would be very concerned about catastrophic claims costs. Indeed, damage costs for your own vehicles and for third parties are also increasing as parts and service and labour charges increase. Add to that the claims culture within the UK and the transport and logistics sector as an ever-escalating pricing issue. To protect your drivers' interests and your organisation, you must ensure that you have legal representation, and that's available immediately after a serious road traffic accident. Has your broker talked to you about this? If they haven't, get another one. We are partnered with DAC Beachcroft's Motor Prosecutions team, and they have an enviable reputation in helping clients defend the most serious motor prosecutions. Fleet management features heavily within Anthony Jones. We are regularly in the press, we provide market commentary, we write regular features, and we feel it's a compelling duty to help our customers to understand the multitude of legislative, financial and social factors that are impacting on vehicle operators' costs. Have a think about what we have said and what you've listened to today. If you think you might get a better service, take a look at our websites, get in touch with us.